They started anyway.
Okay. You have a quorum, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That makes a difference. Okay. Okay, we have a motion to approve the September 18 board workshop meetings.
So moved. Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
There's a motion to approve the 9/25/19 board minutes.
So moved. Second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. We're to the treasurer's report.
Treasury report, I'm going to use the term ICS and CD. ICS stands for Insured Cash Securities and CD, Certificate of Deposits. I'm also will not read the cents part of any the dollar quotes here. As of September, condominium reserves, as of September 10, 2019, we have $1,039,410 in the Bank of the Ozarks money market and ICS accounts. We also hold other various CD and money market accounts at various banking institutions, totaling $2,282,450 for a total of $3,321,861 in condominium reserves as of September 30th, 2019. We had one CD mature on September 29, 2019 at the TIAA Bank for $252,626. We reinvested the CD back into TIAA Bank for 1 year at 2.20%. Association reserves. As of September 30th, 2019, we have $1,053,046 in the Bank of the Ozarks money market and ICS accounts. We also hold other various CD and money market accounts in various banking institutions totaling $930,591 for a total of $1,983,638 in the associated reserves as of September 30th, 2019. Operating account. We hold various cash accounts for operating expenditures in Edison Bank. All accounts insured through a repurchase deposit agreement, and all monies that are over $250,000 are in low-risk U.S. Treasury securities and federal agency securities. We also hold a money market account at Bank of America. Total operating funds available, $632,203. We also have $117,441 of Blue Stream monies being held in operating at this time, for a total of $749,644 on September 30th, 2019. Seven Lakes Realty information, 5 units were sold in the September transactions. We also had some September rent, and total income to Seven Lakes was $3,312.
Good, thank you. You've heard the report.
So moved. Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any conversation, any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay, we have the GM's report.
Okay. GM's report to the board, October 23rd. Number one is just an update on some of the agenda topics. Some of the emails that came in late yesterday from our council applied to a couple of these. I sent those to the board yesterday, but just giving you a quick summary. When we get into the A is the condominium 20. It's the authorization for the owner's vote. This is on the window ownership for condo 20, taking it from a common element to an individual owned on the windows. And basically what the board is doing today would be to authorize that vote to take place. The vote, then you have to put a date in there. Probably the recommendation would be to go with your normal November date for whatever that is for the condo 20 that you guys meet. And then at that meeting, you would vote, or a quorum would be required. And if a 2/3 of quorum is obtained, then it would change the window ownership. B is the additional carports. This one is more of just a discussion item today. What we're doing is outlining procedure for that for condo 20 of what's involved to add additional carports, and then that procedure could be used if we have other condominiums that have interest as well. I think we had 12 people in condominium 20 that signed an interest sheet for $10,000 to $12,000 that they would have interest on a carport. So that will be outlined for us by council, and I'll report back to the board. F is the estoppel letter resolution and condo questionnaire. What this is this was something that we looked at originally, was to make sure that the fees that we're charging for the estoppel, an estoppel, just for definition, is a fee assessment. It's when you have a transfer of a property, they come to the association and do an estoppel request, typically from the title company. And the state mandates how much you can charge on there, but you should have those, the fee schedule actually formally adopted in your policy. The policy is broken out by council into two different areas. The first resolution for consideration today would be the estoppel fees themselves, which would limit the estoppel fee of $250 on an estoppel, and that's the maximum allowed by law. The part that we are not charging for currently, which would be outlined in there, is the $100 for expedited title. Right now on estoppel, by state law, you have 10 days to deliver that. With an expedited to the title companies, if they request it within 3 days, then you have the ability to charge another $100. And there is a $150 fee that can be charged for delinquent monies owed to the association as well. The second resolution there would pertain to what's called a condo questionnaire. And a condo questionnaire is done by certain banks. Sometimes we'll get these and it can be anywhere from a couple pages to sometimes 8 or 10 pages. And right now the association is not charging for those. Most associations do charge for that. So that resolution would allow us then to charge the title companies for that. The last note I had on there for agenda topics was H, which is the revision of policy 38 at the last meeting. You approved everything on the violations procedure that was outlined by council, and I don't think we actually properly noted in there that it's actually replacing the prior verbiage in 38. So that's a simple resolution, just to note that we are replacing any prior verbiage, and that's a recommendation from our council. Other updates, I will keep the board updated on the website. We have Spiro and Associates actually finishing up on the opening pages of the website. Sheila Daly's been helping me quite a bit with this on everything. And what we'll also have to make a decision on is actually hosting the site. Our existing site is hosted by Association Voice, where there may or may not be some concern as far as merging some things in there. So that's something that we'll explore and report back to the board as well. The last two items are the irrigation grant monies. We did apply for a water conservation grant. Myself and JR spent quite a bit of time on it. The decision would be made on that here in the last week of October. So I don't know that we have any chance. We're up against a lot of municipalities, but we are pursuing that to put our name in the hat. And the last thing is just the release of information to residents. We released the topography study, the bathymetric study, and these were done several weeks ago. The drainage pipe study, and all of these are available in the library if anybody wants to get copies of them. And if you need additional copies, we'll be happy to make them. And then this week, we're going to be releasing some information on the irrigation system from everything that we have. We'll release that to the board and to the community as well. And that's it.
Okay, any questions for Sean? Okay, we have committee reports. Do we have any committees who would like to report?
Question.
Oops, I'm sorry, it's architecture.
Question.
Yes.
Sean, on the website update, are they going to take the website information that we have now and regurgitate it into the new website, or are they going to proofread and go through and correct the mistakes?
Now, what Spiro does is theirs is more of the design on the impact on the landing page, and then you have all the ancillary pages. The problem that we're having is Association Voice, the current company, I think, wants to charge a considerable fee to switch everything over, and we have to get that definite. If not, then I've used other companies that would be able to host the site, and that would be our option, mainly on the host. But the object now would be to have everything that's on there, it needs converted over to the new site as well, correct?
With correction.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay, other questions?
Thank you.
The Architecture Review Committee Board.
Actually, I've only got one, so I'll just go ahead and read it myself today instead of sending it out. There's one request for architect changes to report. Roy Douglas, 1835 Pine Bay Circle, condo 43, 1835. Add a screen door in front of the garage, overhead door, color white.
Okay, got a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Other discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Now the committee reports. Yes.
Good afternoon, Steve Daly on behalf of the tennis committee. First of all, I'd just like to show off, this is hot off the press, about a half an hour ago, we got our first sample of the new logo on our tennis shirts. A lot of the team players are buying new outfits this year, and so we have a new logo to go with it. The committee met yesterday, and we had a couple of action items, but there was no time to get them before the board for this, so we'll kick them over until the next, whenever the board has an opportunity to act on them. The one thing the committee did review a report from Aaron Persons he's the president of Court Master Services, and I will the copies of this is Aaron Persons is a tennis director at Breckenridge Country Club, or tennis and golf, and he's provided consulting services and maintenance services at over 20 tennis communities around Southwest Florida. And he's also acknowledged as probably the longest serving tennis professional in our area. He came out to visit the courts and look at the irrigation system, and he provided an opinion letter. His report is, copies of his report are in the library if anyone's interested in picking up. I have a couple with me. His first observation was that while from the outside, Seven Lakes tennis courts appear very attractive, and they appear to be very, very well maintained. Because of their age, courts 1 and 2 are 27 years old, courts 3 and 4 are 21 years old. They have experienced considerable deterioration underground that is impossible to see, that you would not know unless you look underground. And the types of deterioration he's talking about are, first of all, that the liner, the plastic liner that was used back in the 1990s underneath these courts to retain the water, that breaks down over time. And what communities find is that they're leaking water underneath, they're having to use more and more water, and the courts are drying out. They can't keep up with the leakage. The second type of deterioration he said that occurs is with the soft landscaping fabric that's used to wrap the PVC piping. What happens is the rock and the crushed stone that forms the base begins, the fabric starts breaking down, and the rock and the crushed stone begins filtering through that landscaping fabric and filling the PVC pipes. Obviously, the PVC pipes then aren't doing their job. The third thing he pointed out is that, like Seven Lakes, many of these communities around us have had to become increasingly conservative with their water consumption. And they are finding that these old courts use way more water than they need to, and by replacing them with a more modern construction, they're able to use far less water and still have the same quality of service. He said that Seven Lakes basically has, as far as you can tell, some of the oldest tennis courts of this style anywhere in Southwest Florida, because the communities around us who built their courts in the 1990s using these techniques have all replaced theirs by now. The examples he gave, Breckenridge, Bonita Bay, we know Forest has replaced theirs. Bonita Bay, for example, they built their courts about 20 years ago. They replaced them about 5 years ago. And again, it's all due to the same reasons. The other thing he talked about safety. He mentioned that that today, when courts are built, no reputable court builder would build them without divider fences, and that's a safety item. That's because otherwise balls roll from one court into the next, and no designer would be caught dead designing them without those and without the overruns in between. Aaron then gave us an estimate of the cost, what we should expect to have to spend to rebuild these courts. As you'll see, the bottom line is he said roughly $200,000 or roughly $50,000 per court, assuming they are done at the same time. If they're done separate times, obviously the cost will be increased. At the meeting, we also, so that's it for Aaron's report, Armour's report. Again, that's available in the library. The tennis committee then heard that the project, we actually, none of this is really news to Bruce. Bruce is very well aware of what's in this report. In fact, the project to rebuild and replace the courts dates back 7 years. We started getting bids to do this project in 2012. We got bids again in 2015. In 2017, we started looking at replacing the fencing at least, because as you know, the fencing is falling down. Basically, all it takes is a good wind, and we're going to find the fence on the ground. The estimated cost of fencing, if the fencing were done alone, at least $40,000. The DDAI report that the board received this summer recommended that any project to address these issues be coordinated with the rebuilding of the road that goes alongside the pavilion, the tennis road. And they recommended that it be coordinated because, among other things, the tennis project would affect parking spaces. And so obviously you don't want to asphalt in brand new parking spaces and then go a few months later and jackhammer those brand new parking spaces up. If you want to be good stewards of your money. As anyone with familiarity with construction will understand, trying to rebuild a road with a fence immediately adjacent to the road without causing damage to the fence winds up complicating the job and increasing the cost. So So DDAI recommended that the two projects be coordinated. The major item that we do not have an estimate for is the central deck. We have consulted with some deck experts, several firms that construct decks, so that now we have some pretty good numbers, reliable numbers, or at least a good range. The obstacle we're up against with the entire project is nobody wants to give hard numbers for any of this until they have detailed engineering drawings. So until we have detailed engineering drawings, we're not going to get hard commitments, but we can get ranges. And we do know, one number that we do know is that we've received a $50,000 gift from a player to help pay for this project. We've also received a commitment of a $50,000 loan to the tennis club to help fund the project. In a couple weeks, you'll be seeing an announcement of a fundraising program. We're calling it the Deck Fund, to raise money for a deck between the courts. And we're tentatively hoping to raise $40,000 to $50,000 through that fundraising campaign for the Deck Fund. Because we understand that the deck would be a new amenity. It's and a definite boon to tennis. Based on all of that, the estimated, and I can provide you these numbers, we estimate that the out-of-pocket cost to the association of the entire project would be in the low 200s. If the association did nothing but maintain the existing footprint of the courts and then maintain the existing fence, the cost to the association would be about 190 or 200. So the difference is negligible, and the reason the difference is negligible is because of the gifts and the donation. $50,000 is a substantial chunk of this project. And obviously, the other $50,000 would make another huge dent in the overall cost of the project. We are hoping to get some competitive estimates from other firms, but again, we're going to be stymied until we get detailed engineering drawings. We know that the board takes very seriously its legal obligation to maintain the assets, to maintain our amenities. We know that the board takes very seriously its legal obligation to make sure that we have the funding in place to do the maintenance that's required around here. The tennis players are willing to do our part and to raise a very substantial sum of money to help make this project a reality. It's been in the works for 7 years. We would like to see some progress on it this fiscal year. We have a plan for making that happen. We have a plan for where that funding would come from, and we look forward to working with you to make it a reality. I'm happy to take any questions.
Steve, did the estimated $200,000 that didn't take into account your donation? Is that correct?
No, that's just his estimate of replacement.
Okay. And that includes just the courts only and nothing surrounding the courts?
To be precise, the courts, the fencing around the courts, the net posts, and the nets on the courts.
Okay. Very good. Well, I think your point is very, very well taken, and that we do have a responsibility to maintain the assets here. Unfortunately, our history hasn't helped us out very much by putting funds away to do that. But I believe that every decision we make needs to be based upon the best information we have available, and it looks like you've got a good start on that. So we will try to figure out ways to work with you.
I have a question, Steve. Since we are going to be changing the footprint of the courts, meaning there's going to be fences in between and spacing, and they're going to extend past where they are right now, that's not a like-to-like change or repair, which would require the vote of the people, the residents, correct?
Right. What we're, one second.
No, that's okay. I just had one other. Go ahead. You can answer that though first.
Sure. So part of our plan is to tackle this as essentially 3 projects. The first project being to rebuild courts 3 and, can you hear me? The first project being to rebuild courts 3 and 4. Okay. That project can be done without affecting the existing courts, we think, and that project can be done well within, for the, with the out-of-pocket cost of the association. Well, let me, if I can address that. Right now, we know the fence is falling down, and Bruce is on the verge of having to spend $40,000 to $50,000 just to put the fence back up. The board has budgeted an additional $30,000 for the tennis courts with the idea of installing lights this year. That's $70,000. We have a gift of $50,000 that is available to this fiscal year for the courts 3 and 4 project. That means the funding is in place and in hand for the court 3 and 4 project this fiscal year. So that project is done and that is funded. Next project, courts 1 and 2. That would obviously be a much a smaller project because all of the excavation, all the earth moving would have been done. So that's a smaller budget, that's a smaller footprint. That project is done. The third project is the construction of the central deck. And with that being the last one, that's where we have some room to say, I think any deck builder is going to say, what's your budget? Do you want a $50,000 deck? Do you want a $30,000 deck? Do you want an $80,000? I mean, they'll build whatever, our budget. So we do have a budget for that, but that would be done as basically a third project. It's going to may take time, but that's how we see this project going.
Well, I was just more focusing on the fact that the residents need to vote to approve it, not just the board, since it's going to be a different footprint.
If it's not the same footprint, that's correct. For that part,
I believe that depends on the cost.
I'm sorry?
I don't believe that's necessarily true. If the project moves forward, if we have 3 projects, essentially, in 3 fiscal years.
There are some, I have to say, I haven't gotten into this with both feet and up to my nose sometimes. I've found that some of the things I thought that were common sense issues are not necessarily common sense issues when you get into the legal arena. And perhaps you know about that from your background. So we do have to look at a plan, and we have to make a legal determination of what would be like for like or replacement in original condition. There are some variations from that legally you can address, like safety and new regulatory requirements, drainage, that sort of thing. But those all have to be addressed before a decision can be made about how to move. So I think your point is well taken. We have a 50-year-old community and lots of things are wearing out, and we have to figure out ways to address them. And it's an important amenity that we have. The tennis and the golf course both are in our name, if you will. But to Kathy's point, it's easier to address same footprint like for like because that's maintenance as opposed to something new and different. So we'll have to sort that through and figure out how it could be addressed. And then we have to figure out how we want to finance it. So.
And to that point, I just want to reiterate, the reason the courts are being, the footprint is larger. The only reason the footprint is larger is because of safety, to allow that divider fence to prevent balls from rolling between the courts, which is the new de facto standard. You see, that is how courts are built today.
I think the point may be very well made, but we have to make that point in the plan and have it addressed in a legal arena, if you will. But I think you put it on the table for us. The board has a fiduciary responsibility to take care of its property, all of it. So we've got to figure out ways that we do that that makes the most sense. And the residents also have a say in anything that we do that's above and beyond what we have right now. So, thank you, appreciate it. We'll
Thank you.
look forward to getting that.
May I?
Yes, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Steve, you said 50,000 in the board meeting, or in your committee meeting, you said 50 to 60. So I just wanted to straighten that point out. And the other thing that was brought up in your meeting that you haven't brought up today is that in this process, you're going to lose 4 parking spaces. And we're going to have to maybe, I guess it depends on Lee County, recapture those 4 parking spaces. And you haven't addressed that.
I'm happy to talk about that. Okay, your first question had to do with 50 to 60. So the armor person's opinion letter, he gave $50,000 as the market price for rebuilding a tennis court when you're doing a set of 4 courts. He said at the high end, if we were to build a brand new standalone tennis court, the cost would be about 60. So you can extrapolate between those 2 numbers. If we were to rebuild 1 court at a time, we might be paying as much as $60,000. If we were to rebuild them 2 at a time, you can expect the price may not be 50, it may be more, but you can see what.
Okay, you made
So that's
I
okay.
understand
So-
about the four parking spaces.
Okay, I don't think the plan is to lose parking spaces. The plan is to essentially move the parking spaces or change the parking spaces. One of the reasons we believe this project needs to be coordinated with the road design is that it will affect the configuration of the parking. And so we believe DDAI is qualified to tell us, okay, the tennis court footprint would take these 3 spaces, you would make up for them by creating 3 golf cart spaces over here. And the DDAI would tell that, and then we would know how we would compensate for the parking spaces. But I don't think anyone's intention is to take away parking at the end of the day.
Well, I understand what you're saying. We went out there the other day, and it appears as though to gain any parking spaces, you may have to take a few trees down. That being said, this whole project, and I'm not against it, but what I'm saying is it's more in-depth than just the tennis courts.
I believe there's only 1 tree that's in jeopardy, but I do understand that, yes, there is a tree that is right on the edge. It's very near the edge, and so, yes, Bruce has brought up the possibility of that tree being.
Does that bring in Lee County?
I'm sorry.
Is that going to bring in Lee County saying, yes, you can take it down, or no, you can't take it down?
I'm not equipped to answer that. I think anytime you changing the parking structure, I think is going to involve the county. Anything that involves that road, and the tennis project involves the road. So I don't see how you.
Okay, so therefore you're promoting the engineering study, which I'm totally for.
Yes, we need more engineering, and we've, in fact, the tennis, as you'll recall, the tennis club donated $5,600 to pay for the engineering. The next step is actually a second iteration of the concept plan from the engineers. That's actually the very next step. We give them our feedback. We tell them we want option 1, the $10,000 option, which is moving some fill from one location to another. We give them our other notes, and then they come back with a second concept plan. They were already committed to deliver that for us.
Steve, if you will, and to Kathy's point, if you will look at, and I know you've read it, but section 4.19 of our bylaws relative to the maintenance of the property, and submit with your plan what would be, in your consultant, in your opinion, maintenance versus material change.
Absolutely.
That would be helpful for us to know.
Absolutely. I'm happy to do that.
Other questions?
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Other committees that wish to report? Okay. Seeing none, we'll go to new business. We have the resolutions for Condo 20.
Okay, condominium 20 owners would like to change their condominium documents to reflect the ownership of the windows, making it the responsibility of the owners and not the building. Legal counsel will prepare the necessary notice and proxy with the proper verbiage. Once received, this from council, the administration staff will prepare the packets for mailing to condominium 20 owners. The boards needs to provide authorization to condominium 20 owners to vote on changing their documents. The legal did provide that resolution, which I think are,
Yeah, the resolution.
and then the only thing that we would need to put in there would be the date. If the intent is to use the date on
Was that November 21st?
November 21st.
Okay. Have that? Okay. We have a resolution prepared, and we would insert the dates of November 21st into the resolution.
You want November 23rd on the Board of Directors meeting today. The first one would be today's date, correct?
Today's date would be the date of the resolution. I think their date, I think, was that correct, Jerry? In your
Say again?
21st?
November 21st, I believe, yes.
Okay.
You want November 21st on the consideration of the attached amendment? That's the date that you're actually having your.
That's when that's when they authorize, that's when you're authorized your vote, that's when you're voted to authorize one.
And we do have a 14-day notice requirement on that.
Yes. Can you get that notice out before the 7th of November?
Yes.
All right.
But basically, the way they wrote their proposed amendment, the way Rob wrote it, it's going to require date fill-ins. It says consideration of the attached proposed amendment. That would be today.
Yes.
Where they do the mail out and everything doesn't come up in this amendment. It's just a resolution of how the board passes and what it does. Everybody comfortable with that?
I see that, yes.
It'll
Yes,
take me a
that's
second to
correct.
read
That's
this,
correct.
but I'm going to put today's dates in.
Correct.
I have a question. If there are already banks involved in this because of mortgage or lines of credit, I believe they would also have to have some type of input into any voting.
You need to add what?
Banks. If anybody in that condominium has some type of mortgage or line of credit outstanding, it was initially signed under the old agreement. I believe the banks have a right to input their vote, whatever, I'm not sure.
Okay, I agree totally with that, but all we're doing with the resolution is saying that the building can vote on the amendment change. The board's not saying who's doing the voting. They're just saying that they can vote on it.
Again, I'm just bringing up the banking issue because I'm not sure if that's going to be a stopgap measure. So,
I think that would be on an individual condo basis if there's a mortgage on the condo.
Yeah, there's a lien now onto it. When they get sent the letter in 14 days to where they do the voting, that's when the bank comes into play. This is just authorizing the fact that they're going to be allowed to vote.
And for note, the
Say, I believe
insurance
the
did not
bank-
change. The insurance stays the same on the unit as what was noted by council.
That's what's in the council then,
I would think that
yeah, I believe the bank also has to be contacted because that's what the original mortgage or line of credit was written on.
I agree with that, but then again, it doesn't come into play until we give them the right to vote. But dude, this,
we have to
we're
go
one
this
step ahead of where we
resolution
need to be.
We have to do this first and then take.
We have to say, okay, the board says they can vote, and then they work it out after that situation.
I would say go forward here.
Okay. Board Resolution 7 Lakes Association, Inc., October 23rd, 2019. In accordance with Article 18.1 of the amended and restated Declaration of Condominium of 7 Lakes Condominium 20, the Board of Directors hereby approves and ratifies the attached proposed amendment to the amended and restated Declaration of Condominium and authorizes and ratifies the call of the members' meeting and the members' consideration of the attached proposed amendment on the 23rd day of October 2019. The board recommends that owners vote in favor of the attached proposed amendment. If the proposed amendment is duly approved by the owners of condominium 20, the appropriate officer shall have the authority to cause the appropriate certifications to be recorded upon the Lee County Public Records without need for further action of the board. There are 6 total board members. The number of board members who voted in favor of this resolution that's still blank. I'll fill it in when we vote. The number of board members who voted against this resolution the blank is still there. I'll fill it in. The vote of each director is reflected in the minutes of the meeting that this resolution was adopted.
Motion, or the resolution is read, it's been moved,
Second?
been seconded, further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Okay.
I gotta count now?
Yeah, okay.
Okay, the first blank becomes number 6. The voted against the resolution becomes a 0. Motion's passed.
Motion's passed, thank you. What do we do the other? Okay, we have the golf cart contract.
Golf cart contract, Golf Pro Chris Ewing is working with Golf and Electric Vehicles for golf cart fleet rentals and servicing golf carts. Golf and Electric Vehicles will provide us with 10 golf carts from October 15th through May 1st of each year, and from May the 1st to October 15th, there will be a minimum of 5 vehicles and a maximum of 10 vehicles. The contract lists the specifics.
Okay, so we have a resolution.
Be it hereby resolved, the Board of Directors of Seven Lakes Association, Inc. approves the general manager to sign a contract with Golf and Electric Vehicles regarding golf cart fleet rentals and service.
So moved. Second.
Been moved and second, further discussion?
Question. On summary of work, number 2, it says Seven Lakes Association shall be responsible for any damage beyond normal wear and tear. Who determines normal wear and tear?
I do.
Also, number 7, it says Seven Lakes Association shall promote the GEVI as the preferred golf cart company. How does that come about? How is that accomplished?
Well, we've changed the language in that from exclusive to preferred, because exclusive would have inferred that we have no other options to provide to people. And taking an example out of a page of other industries like healthcare, you may have a provider that you say is our preferred provider because they provide us some amenities, but they're not necessarily our exclusive. So I think that was a compromise in the language.
Again, I'm not sure how this is accomplished. Does Chris
Gets a request and Chris can make a referral.
Right above that, number 7, it says it's noted that we have another current contracted golf advertiser in the newsletter. So they're going along with that. So we are recommending someone else basically in the newsletter by letting them meet.
Chris?
Yes, just to follow up on Bob's question, being the preferred vendor, basically what we do in the golf shop is we do have signage in the golf shop related to golf and electric vehicles for cart service. And also if someone were to come in and ask if they need something done with a golf cart and ask who we use or who we would recommend, we would point them in the direction of golf and electric vehicles.
So I remember there was some signage in the front window that will be there also, continue to be there. Yes, some signage in front.
The signage, right.
While you're up there, under payments, it says final releases of lien have been provided to the association. Under payments, number 2. I'm not sure what that meant.
I'm sorry,
Where are you, Bob?
Or payments.
I'm on the second page, under payments.
In payments, right? Number 2, under payments.
Yep.
But the way that, again, from what I'm understanding here in the contract, that would be if, to me, that reads as if Seven Lakes had any reason to withhold payment to Dolphin Electric Vehicles. That would have to be released before any payments were made to them.
My guess is they're going to put a lien against us until that final payment is made, and then the final payment will release the lien.
See, again, it says final releases of lien have been provided to the
You have to
association.
read above that. It says a final payment will be held until the following items have been completed. So, once these are completed, the final payment will be given out. Otherwise, it would be held. That's fairly normal. Most contractors do that.
Other questions? Did you get your answer or not?
I just asked a question. I have no legal knowledge.
Okay. Other questions or comments?
Call question.
We have a resolution on the floor. It's been read, so all in favor of the resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the resolution passes. The carports you discussed in your
Yes,
comments.
our reports, I'll report back on the proper procedure for that.
Sorry. Forgot to turn it off. Okay, then we're, the security vehicle approval.
Approval of a new security vehicle. A new vehicle is needed for the security rover. A 2020 white Kia Forte was test driven. A lease versus buy options were explored along with UTV and multiple vehicle comparisons.
Okay, Jerry, you and Kathy were with Sean and did the original investigation. Do you have any comments?
I like the car.
That was a very nice car. I was impressed with the Kia. I'd never seen a Kia before up close.
Yeah.
My only comment was that I understand that the rover who drives the car is a bigger person, and so we will probably be needing to replace the seat upon occasion, if not often. So that's one of the reasons why we were talking about getting the maintenance agreement for it.
We just get a smaller rover.
The only concern I have, and I think you've addressed it, Sean, is the mileage. And it appears that we get 12,000 miles, and that carries over. In other words, if we go if we go to 13,000 miles the first year, we don't pay anything. We wouldn't pay anything until we get to the maximum of the contract.
That's correct.
Is that correct?
Yeah, and you have an out at 2 years and 8 months. So if for some reason we were tight on mileage, you would have the opportunity after 2 years and 8 months to lease another vehicle.
Okay, fine.
And thanks to the two of you for helping with the research on it. Okay, we have a resolution.
Be it hereby resolved, the Board of Directors of Seven Lakes Association, Inc. authorizes the General Manager to sign a lease agreement with Galliana for a 2020 Kia Forte in an amount not to exceed $280 per month with a 36-month lease.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
I just think I wanted to mention one thing. A couple people asked about how come we didn't go to the, is it Fossilia? Kia, to get the free 70-inch TV. And Sean was smart enough to do the calculations. They upped the price of the monthly lease, and basically you end up paying for the TV one way or the other.
You get a free TV, right?
There is no free.
There's no free TV.
Your free TV costs you $1,000, yes.
Thank you. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Resolution passes. Okay,
E is a security software. I did send an email to Allied. There was no contract or anything on this. It's $199 a month, so it's just strictly an invoice, and then we can cancel at any time. But for consideration, the Helios security software.
Okay, Jerry, did the committee review that? You reviewed that security software?
No, the committee, I shouldn't say that. On their own, before the first committee meeting, the word was put out to have the research on the committee research the software on their own. It wasn't really talked about that much during the committee meeting, and I don't know that anybody did any of the research.
Yeah.
That being said, I was out there this morning and Harold asked if this was going to pass today, and I said, well, I don't know, but I hope so. He said, I hope it does. We need this badly.
Okay.
If it does what it's supposed to do, it'd be great. And it's nice that there's no contract. It's a month to month. If we don't like it, we can do away with it.
Okay, we have a resolution.
Be it hereby resolved, the Board of Directors of Seven Lakes Association, Inc. approves the general manager to purchase a security software by Helios for the front and back gates in an amount not to exceed $199 per month.
So move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Further discussion? Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Or the resolution passes. Okay.
Okay, F, Staple letter fee. Seven Lakes currently charges $250, the maximum amount allowed by law to fill out an estoppel letter. The board can also consider charging an additional $100 for an estoppel letter when a title company is pushing for an expedited closing, and an additional $150 for a delinquent account that is owed to the association per the applicable unit. Also, condominium questionnaires are not required to be filled out by an association under a condominium law. However, they were required on some notes such as Fannie Mae and most government-backed notes. Associations can charge up to $150 to fill out these questionnaires, and we receive about 12 to 14 questionnaires per year and do not currently charge for them.
I will make a quick comment about that, and that it seems that the title companies are pushing to expedite more frequently than they have in the past, and it is becoming a bit of an administrative issue for the person we have doing those. So I think an additional fee would be a reasonable expectation. We're supposed to get, I think, 30 days notice on it, so we're getting 3 days sometimes to get this dealt with. So, we have a resolution.
Actually, we have two resolutions.
Yeah.
I'm